How to detach. We're going to go deep into detachment and why it is the most powerful tool you can use in your love life. If you are someone who is anxiously attached, if you often get anxious when you're dating and you attach onto people very quickly, then you will want to use the power of detachment to really move forward with confidence in your love life. I'm a dating and relationship coach. I help and I love helping women get their love life handled because love is the most important thing. One of the things I noticed that stops women from getting the love they want is their attachment to the outcome, to a man, or to getting the relationship they want. Detachment is not you not caring, it's not being cold or distant and neutral. Detachment is simply a way of caring about yourself and other people, other men, in a way that doesn't hurt you. Okay, so a lot of what happens with women, the patterns that I see is they will be anxious, waiting for a man to text them back or get back to them or give them answers, and they will lose a lot of sleep. They will lose their appetite. They won't be able to focus and concentrate at work. They will literally feel themselves deteriorating. Another thing that can happen is when they start overreacting to things that men say and do, and they blow up thinking that, oh, he's going to leave them or he doesn't care anymore, and they end up saying things that are terrible in the moment and they later regret. Another thing that can happen is they can stay in relationships for far too long. Ignore all the red flags that a man is potentially neglectful, disrespectful, abusive, controlling. They ignore the red flags because of their attachment to that person, to wanting it to work out. Another thing is just being obsessed, right, about an ex or a past lover to the point where it stops them from getting out there and meeting someone new, from finding a new love and moving forward. So attachment is a state of being that is disempowering. It makes you feel out of control. You have to remember your brain has evolved to survive. One of the things that we had to learn as children growing up is quickly how to relate to our caretakers, our parents, the people closest to us, and therefore created our own method of surviving. And attachment theory is really just a study of groups of people in mass and how they relate to people. Okay, and we kind of just categorize them, right, and put names and labels on it so we can talk about it as a pattern. So you just need to know that you have developed your own unique pattern of way of relating based on your childhood, your unique parents or environment that you grew up in. And once your brain kind of locked into that method that you have created, it will just keep repeating it. It will just run that pattern over and over and over again because the brain likes to repeat things. It likes to become efficient in order to survive, because the more you do something over and over again, the more energy you can conserve, and then you can do other things that will help you survive. We have taken this old programming into adulthood, but the problem is we have outgrown it. For a lot of us, it's no longer effective or useful, and a lot of times it can even be detrimental to us. So why a lot of people struggle with breaking their attachment style or their own pattern? Because they're still in the pattern, right? When your brain is still looping on the pattern, it thinks it's doing the best thing for you. So it doesn't want you to stop because it is thinking, if you stop, I'm gonna die. Basically, that's the brain. That is why the power of detachment is so critical. You want to detach from yourself, from your pattern long enough so you can create a new pattern. Be more deliberate about creating a new pattern for yourself in a way that will serve you in your relationship moving forward. Okay? But you can't do that if you're in the pattern. Right? You need to detach long enough to create a new pattern. And that is what we're going to talk about now, is how to detach. First thing I want to teach you is to become the watcher. Now, humans, we have the ability to think, feel, and act. And we also have the unique ability to think about our thinking, to think about our feeling, and to think about our acting, being. Okay, so as far as I know, only humans can do this, and we're the only ones that can plan ahead, like a week or 2 weeks, a year ahead. Dogs and cats are not doing that. They're not thinking a week in advance, nor are they thinking about their thinking and analyzing their behavior. They're just being, they're just doing and reacting constantly, right? They're in the present moment constantly. You want to develop the practice of watching yourself being in your life. So thinking about your thinking about your feeling, thinking about your doing, and just observing it. Okay? And this practice will take extra effort, and your brain will not want to do it because it likes to just run on autopilot and be in your life. It doesn't want to put that extra bit of effort in to think about things, analyze things. But we need to do that in order to plan ahead. In order to break our pattern, we need to watch ourselves be in our pattern, and the act of watching ourselves is being detached from the pattern. Okay, now in the beginning, you may waffle back and forth. You may watch yourself for a minute or two, maybe even a second, and then you'll go back to, worrying about the future, worrying about what's going to happen, catastrophizing about the worst things, right? And this is especially true if you're triggered in the moment, you're in fight or flight, and you're feeling all the emotions and you're worrying. But even in that state, you can just for a moment watch yourself and notice, okay, oh, my heart's like elevated. My breathing's kind of shallow here and all over the place. I'm feeling really tense, in my chest and in my stomach. And I'm like it's like I'm holding something in. Even just for a split second, you may notice, okay, this is what's going on in my body. And then you'll go back to worrying about, you're going to be homeless in the future and on the side of the road and no one's going to care. You're going to be dead, right? Like your mind may immediately switch back to what you're worried about. Practice simply observing yourself. And this is important for you to remind yourself that there is no actual danger out there. There is no murderer coming at you with a knife. There is no tiger about to pounce on you. You're not in any actual threat of danger. The facts are a man is not calling you and not texting you. And then there is your story about why he's not. And it's your story about why he's not that's triggering you into fight or flight, into anxiety, into a threatening state. Not just the perception of real danger, it's our thoughts creating a story of danger that can trigger us as well. So that story could be, he doesn't care about me, he's no longer interested, I'm gonna die alone, he's going to break my heart. I'm going to be miserable forever. That could be the story that you're telling yourself. And notice if there's also like another story coming in, story from your past, memories from your past that is confirming, that is telling you you're not good enough, you're not lovable enough, you'll never get the love that you want. That could be another story that is coming in as well. Now, if you are not aware of any conscious thought happening, you're just aware of the emotion, you're just aware of your body tensing up or the anxiety in your body, then I highly encourage you to go deeper within yourself and really understand what is happening in your mind, what you're thinking about. Because you would not have an emotional response unless you have a conscious thought. It is important that you bring that out so you are aware of what you are thinking, so you can have some power over it. Because if you're just having these unconscious thoughts in the background, you're not going to be able to change it if you don't bring them up to the surface and have a good look at them. Now, I want to talk about fact versus story. And this is something that I usually teach my clients very first thing. And I do this all the time with myself first thing as well. So an exercise I like to do is I like to do a thought dump first thing in the morning. I write down all of my thoughts, all the things that I'm worried about, anxious about. And then I have the opportunity to view them as thoughts, to view it as a story outside of myself so I can analyze it and look at it, okay? And so I'm not just like in my head and in the story, right? And then what I like to do is separate out the facts from the story. So facts, as a tip, facts are something everyone in the world would agree on. So me, I am a woman. That is a fact because everyone in the world would agree on that. I have womanly parts, so I'm a woman. Okay, my age would be a fact. The temperature in the air. Okay, if you got out 50 different thermometers and measure the temperature in the air, it would say the same on every single one of them. So facts are something everyone in the world would agree on. Now, everything else is a story. So if you say he is gorgeous, gorgeous is very subjective. What is gorgeous? What is the definition of gorgeous? Two different people will have two different definitions of it. Okay, so anything that's subjective is a story. And you will quickly realize 99.9% of your thought downloads will be a story, right? But this is the funny thing. Until we get it down onto paper, we will just think all our thoughts are true and everyone else would agree they're true. Here's an example. A man pulling away is not the reason you are anxious. Okay? How we know that is because if the fact of a man pulling away caused you to be anxious, every single woman in the world would have to be anxious when he pulled away because the circumstance would cause it that way, right? If it was him, okay? And all the other men who are not messaging you, all the men from your childhood, or the people that you've lost touch with in the past, or your old colleagues, they're not making you anxious. They're not texting you right now either. The circumstance of a man not texting you is not what makes you anxious. It's your specific story about a specific man not texting you that is what makes you anxious, okay? So we always got to remember that, and doing this exercise will make it a little clearer and make you see that, oh yeah, it is my story about this specific thing. It's not the circumstance. And we want to do that because, again, that's another way we go into the watcher and we observe ourselves. Because we're observing ourselves, we know there's a separation there. Okay, the second thing I want you to do is to allow your feelings. One of the patterns that I see come up with women, and it came up for me, is this pattern of either feeling anxious about men or avoiding men. Okay, I either meet someone and I like him and I'm anxious about whether he'll call me back or not and whether this will go anywhere, hoping it'll go somewhere. Or I'm avoiding dating apps, I'm avoiding that conversation, I'm avoiding meeting men because I don't want to feel frustrated, I don't want to feel disappointed. So then I jump from one to the other, either feeling anxious or avoiding the feelings. Really notice if that is a pattern happening for you. It is fear management. So instead of moving towards and through the fear, what we do is we just hang around outside of it. We just go around it, try to skirt around it and like keep it over there, keep it away from us, keep it contained, right? So we can feel a sense of control, feel a sense of like power. The relationship of your dreams require you to go through the fire, go through the fear, and to open up to all of those emotions, to allow all of those emotions to come in. So for example, a lot of people are anxious about someone because they're waiting for someone to get back to them instead of just making a decision. Now, when I say making a decision, it doesn't necessarily mean cut them off, but it just means I'm no longer going to entertain this person. I'm no longer going to wait around for them to come back and hope something will happen. Now, when I say this, I usually get some pushback. Clients don't like this. They want to leave the door open, or maybe they logically want to do that, but then they can't emotionally do that. And the reason you may feel yourself emotionally resistant to the idea of moving on or making a decision about where this is going to go is because of fear, right? Notice if there's fear coming up, oh, maybe I'd be making the wrong decision and there could be a chance and maybe I'm going to miss out on something here. Just notice if fear is coming up when I talk about you making a decision. That is what you want to happen. This is what I'm talking about. Allowing the fear to come up, bring it closer to you so you can look at that, understand that. What is that about, right? And then really you want to move through it because relationships, getting into the relationship of your dreams require you to make a lot of decisions. Okay, a lot of decisions quickly so you keep moving forward. Decisions are how we empower ourselves. We never get anywhere when we get stuck, spinning, feeling anxious and confused, not going forward. Same with avoiding something. If you find yourself avoiding having a conversation that you know you should have, or you're avoiding going on the dating apps and talking to men, avoiding something, chances are it's because of a feeling you're trying to avoid on the other side. Okay, so I used to avoid going on dating apps because I didn't want to feel frustrated. Because I would go on the dating apps, I would feel immediately frustrated, and then I'd immediately jump off. And that is because I didn't want to feel frustrated. So I'd rather avoid it than move towards it. But of course, what that meant was I never meet anybody. I never really moved towards the relationship of my dreams because I never get the chance to meet anyone. Great, okay? Because I'm avoiding that emotion. Where are you avoiding something because you're really avoiding the emotion you think you will experience on the other side? If you allowed that emotion in, if you just felt that emotion and just opened up to it, that will move you closer to your dreams instead of you staying where you are now and staying stuck. What you want to do is you want to start practicing allowing emotions to come up on purpose and deliberately feeling them on purpose. So a great way I like to do is to, after I do my thought download and my thought dumps, usually more emotions will come up. Usually more negative emotions will come up because I'm putting more focus and more attention on those negative thoughts. And you want to practice doing this to become deliberate about your feelings. So many of us are in a constant state of avoiding negative emotions, avoiding fear, and then we never get the practice of moving towards negative emotions on purpose. And the truth is, life is 50-50. You're going to feel negative emotions no matter what. Either you're going to feel lonely because you're single, or you may feel rejected by someone. And either way, it's not a good feeling, okay? But for me, I have always preferred that I choose my feelings on purpose and I'm moving towards them on purpose rather than just having an emotion happen to me, have something happen to me. Like, I will see women who will wait for men to break up with them first, wait for men to reject them first, and then they will feel terrible about themselves. And then they create this perpetual story of how every single man they've ever liked has dumped them, has rejected them, right? It's such a disempowering loop pattern that you would get into because they're not choosing the emotions they want to feel. Okay, sometimes you do need to choose negative emotions, but they're going to come up anyway. So if you choose rejection on purpose, let's say it's rejection, it could be any negative emotion, then at least you can tell yourself, well, I chose that. I was brave enough, I was courageous enough to go towards that because I wanted my dreams to happen. Right? There's a sense of power and control over that actually lifts you up, makes you feel good about yourself, rather than having this thing happen to you, which then you can just end up spinning in victim mentality. Think about that for yourself, how that may be true. Okay, the third thing I would like you to do is to focus on what you want. One of the traps that we fall into is we become too fixated on our problems and understanding our problems, fixing our problems as quickly as possible. So what that really looks like is, first of all, we are believing our fearful thoughts, believing that unless we fix this problem, we're going to end up homeless somewhere and alone, and we're going to die miserable, single, alone. Okay? Believing that's going to happen. And number two, reacting to those fearful thoughts by playing out our attachment style, whatever method that we have developed through childhood. So either that is feeling anxious and chasing after a guy, overdoing for a guy, or we are avoidant and we dismiss him completely. So you will have your own specific strategy, specific method of dealing with your relationship problem. And the big issue with this is both of these things are heavily past focused. The reason you have fearful thoughts is because of your past. The reason you are using your current method is because it's what's worked for you in the past. Okay, you're just like doing that same thing over and over and over again. So if you just let your brain go on autopilot and just run with that, you're just going to be repeating yourself, doing the same things. So instead of doing that, what you want to do is you want to think beyond your problem. And you want to focus instead on what you want. So you want to imagine the future you want, the relationship you want, the man you want feeling loved, feeling cherished, feeling appreciated. You want to imagine this with such detail that you can't tell the difference between what is real and what is imaginary. So your body can't tell the difference. So you start being that now. Nothing in your current environment needs to change. You just need to change what you think about, what you focus on, what you imagine up here. Here's an example. When you're cooking dinner, you're not cooking dinner as a single person anymore. You're cooking dinner as someone's girlfriend, as someone who is loved and cherished. When you are going shopping, you're not going shopping anymore as a single woman. You're going shopping as a loved and adored woman with a boyfriend at home who loves her. So this is what you want to start practicing, imagining, embodying, and feeling and doing. Fourth thing you want to do is to drop your timeline. Okay, women, when we are anxious, it's because we're operating under the illusion of some timeline. And the timeline is usually something that we think is such a real thing, when really relationship timelines is all arbitrary. Everybody has different timelines and when things should happen by. And when you're anxious, it's because you're attached to things happening by a certain time. It's like, think of you knowing an exam is coming up. This is an important exam. So you stress and worry and study all the way up to the time, the exam date. And then once that day comes, then all of that anxiety drops and releases, because what's done is done. You can't change it. You can't study anymore for it. You can't worry anymore about it. It's done. So it all releases. The same thing happens in dating. Women pick this arbitrary date in the future and we say, if he doesn't respond by this date, then I'm going to move on. Then it means he's not interested. So then they stress and worry all the way up to that date. Okay, hoping he will contact and show her something different up to that date. And then once that date comes, that's when they drop all the anxiety and maybe all the grief and all the disappointment comes. Having a deadline like that is really a protective mechanism, because the brain doesn't like to feel grief and pain and disappointment and rejection. So what it does instead is it chooses anxiety and confusion in its place. So it pushes the actual grieving into the future, and we choose anxiety and confusion instead. But then it doesn't like feeling anxious and confused all day long either. So it gives it this artificial deadline, and it tells us, okay, you can feel anxious all the way up to this deadline. After that, you can drop all the anxiety then. The reason you do that is because the brain just wants the perception of relief. Okay, because it doesn't like to feel negative emotion, doesn't like to feel anxiety. So it just tells it, okay, you can feel anxious up to this point. So that is the little game we mentally play on ourselves. Now, remember though, there is no real danger out there in the world. There is no, he needs to come back by this date or else it's the best thing ever or else it's the worst thing ever. There is no actual such thing. Okay, there is no, if he doesn't call back, I'm going to die moment. You're not going to die. You're going to be fine. There's plenty of food in the fridge. You're going to be fine. Okay, so the actual danger out there is none. You're safe. You're safe now. You'll be safe in the future. You're going to be fine. You're going to live just fine. If you just get that really the anxiety and the fear and the discomfort you're feeling is all coming from the story that you're telling yourself, then you'll realize time doesn't actually matter. There's only your anxiety, which is created by the thoughts you're thinking, And to remove the anxiety, you just need to change the thoughts you're thinking, change what you're focused on. You also won't be under the illusion you can't feel certain feelings, so you will allow all the feelings in. That means you don't need certain things to happen by a certain time, which means love then can happen whenever it happens. You won't feel hostage by a certain deadline. When you transcend time, you will be in your feminine energy, because the feminine energy in your feminine being is timeless. Right? Give yourself infinite amount of chances, infinite amount of time for love to come in, and love will come in. You will notice there won't be any anxiety. So to summarize, you want to practice being the watcher, separate facts from your story, and do your thought downloads on a regular basis. Number 2 is to allow your feelings. Deliberately bring your fear up and move towards them on purpose. Number 3 is to focus on what you want. Imagine the relationship you want as much as you can, as if it is real, so you feel how you would feel if you already had it. And number 4 is to drop your timeline. So if you do these steps, I promise you, you will detach. You will feel better. You will feel lighter. You're going to feel much more in control and much more tapped into your feminine energy. So that is all from me this week. If you enjoyed this video, leave me a comment below. If you'd like to work with me, you can also check out my Evolved Woman coaching program below, where we go deeper into this work. And that is all from me this week. I'll talk to you next time.